Hello and welcome to the show. My guest this week is Michelle Delaney. Michelle is from Better Homes and Gardens, always gives us a great insight as to what's happening and has a lovely, unique view on our stories as well. Here's what we're going to cover today. The best friends build their very own tiny town, only in America, got to tell you. Free fall to boom. What the hell is going on with the property market? The body corporate sinking feeling. Australasia's biggest garage, and life inside a clock, would you believe? Back in just a moment.
Did you know you can save up to 70% on your staff costs by outsourcing the low-value, repeatable tasks so your team can focus on growing your business? Bepo is an outsourcing provider focused on the real estate industry. With an English-speaking, tertiary qualified and fully trained team in the Philippines, Bepo will give your business the boost it needs to start growing and returning value to you. For more information, visit bepo.com.au.
And joining me is my co-host this week, Michelle Delaney from Better Homes and Gardens. Hello, my dear.
Hi, Kevin. How are you today?
Oh, fantastic, thank you. And looking forward to talking to you as always. How's Better Homes and Gardens travelling?
Going really, really well. So I think the last time we spoke, we were talking about the new office on the Sunshine Coast. And
yes,
today I can say that in the first part of 2020, we'll have a new Better Homes and Gardens real estate office in Mossman.
Oh, excellent. Well done. Congratulations. Yeah. Well, we're going to be doing a special feature. We'll broadcast this show from one of your new offices in Queensland, but more about that later. Let's get to our first story. Best friends build their own little tiny town. I love this story, Michelle, because there's a bit of a backstory here. Our neighbours in the home that we owned previously, when we moved, we bought an apartment, which is where we're living now. And we got on so well, they decided to actually buy the apartment next door to us. And we're still neighbours. So just a wonderful story. And this one was of a group of people. I think they were based they're in Texas. And they all got together and built their own little tiny towns. I think we've got some photos to show up here while we're talking as well. Steph will bring those up. It's a lovely story, isn't it?
It's a great story. And what I really liked about it was I loved the structures. Like, they're so eco-friendly. It almost reminded me, when I looked at it and looked at all the images and read the story, it was a bit like I could envisage myself glamping out there, actually. So, but yeah, it's quite a unique story. You know, they all wanted to stay together, and they originally lived close to each other, but not as close, but they never saw each other. So they decided that was going to be the way to go. My only one question would be, what if there's a fallout one day and someone says, I don't want to live here anymore? You know, can they sell the little lot, or are they all on one title? But I think they're obviously, you know, really close. And having that, did you see the photos of that beautiful communal kitchen? Beautiful stainless steel communal kitchen. I bet there's a lot of really nice beers and yarns that go on in that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you've got to be, well, you do have to be a special kind of person to live in those community type relationships. But, you know, good luck to them. They all seem very happy, and I love the style of the homes, and you picked up there on the eco-friendliness of them as well. But I got to say, I don't think I could live in a tiny house like that.
No, I do like my space.
Indeed. Okay, let's go to our next story in just a moment. Before we do that, I just want to tell you that Real Estate Talk is out tomorrow. The do's and don'ts of subletting. Unit oversupply brings on rental guarantees. Rent, sell, or hold tight. It's a really great website that will tell you about, that allows you or helps you make that decision. Is it a mini boom? Are we in for a mini boom in 2020? And we reveal one of the strongest markets in Australia, and it's actually in Queensland. So there you go. We'll tell you about that tomorrow in the show. Michelle Delaney from Better Homes and Gardens, my guest this week on Real Estate. What's this show called? This is called Property News Update. Oh, I got to tell you, we are in overload right now. So we're just talking to so many great people and putting up so many shows on Property TV, that's where you'll find them all. Story number 2, this one comes to us from The Guardian. Freefall to boom. What the hell is going on with the property market? It wasn't so long ago that we were talking about prices crashing. Well, now and we're talking about a bubble. Well, now they're saying we could be in for a mini boom. Hey, it's so confusing. You're in property. What about consumers? How do they follow all this, Michelle?
And I think that's the hard part for the consumer in the marketplace. As you say, Kevin, you and I are, we're in the business and in the coalface, so we follow the trends and read all the data and absorb it all. But when you're on the other side as a consumer, all you've got to go on is what the media tell you. So, but it's really interesting to see that how varying the great variances in each of the states and territories. Like one state will do really well, and then Darwin, I know, is not performing as well, and Sydney and Melbourne are really booming. Is it the election, and we had the ScoMo government put back in, interest rates were dropped, when they had that big inquiry, the Banking Royal Commission. I think there's a lot of variables that come into play in that space, and auction clearance rates, whilst they haven't reached what they were, who's to say that they're not going to? They're certainly climbing each week.
Well, they're still quite respectable. We're looking at national clearance rates of around 72 to 75%. That's pretty good. I think we got used to seeing clearance rates of around 80 and 90%. That was just not sustainable. But, what we're getting now is quite good. And even in the Brisbane market, we're seeing clearance rates getting up around 50%. So consumer confidence is lifting, and I think that's one of the big indicators for me. It's the one that I always watch. If consumers feel comfortable, they've got a good job, they feel comfortable in their job, they're going to buy real estate. So, I think the bottom line here, Michelle, is that you've got to do, what you need to do at the time. It's not all about speculation. It's not all about major capital growth. It's about getting established in the market. So that's how I read it anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree, Kevin. I agree, and I think the good thing about the market today is that it's a healthy market. It's got a really nice feel about it. But the other thing is there's a lot of information out there for the consumer. So I think as the industry has evolved, we have greater transparency into what they can see. They can do their research. And I think the best part about it is if you're in the marketplace and you really want to get the right advice, you just need to go to an agent that you trust, someone who's going to tell you exactly, how it is. So
exactly.
Do your research is the key.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, next story. This one comes from My Body Corp report. And the reason I'm using this is because, once again, a personal experience, but what goes into a sinking fund? And we're doing a series of interviews on this because so many people, even those in apartments, don't know what a sinking fund is. They don't know the difference between a sinking fund and an admin fund. Let me explain why I think this is important, Michelle, then I'd love to get your take on it as well. When a developer builds some units, an apartment block, they'll establish the first body corporate round of fees, the admin fee and the sinking fund. And they're normally very low because they don't quite know, until they get a quantity surveyor in, what the costs are going to be ongoing. So they'll establish a very low body corporate fee. A number of people who buy in new think that that's going to be the ongoing. A personal situation here, we bought into a block of apartments, which was very much the case. And then after 2 years, the unit holders found that they weren't meeting all of the maintenance that was needed on the building, and they needed to up their body corporate fees or their sinking fund fees. This happens so often. That's why I wanted to bring this document up, because it's the best explanation I've ever read of what is a sinking fund and the difference between a sinking fund and admin. And I just find there's a lot of confusion in the market about it. Michelle?
Yeah, there is. In my previous role many years ago, I used to manage strata rolls back in central West New South Wales, and it was always difficult to try and get the people that were purchasing the building, or the people that were, the occupiers of the lot, to get them to understand those clear differences. So, as you know, the administration fund covers the insurances and all of those parts to
the administration,
the property, and then the sinking fund is for the maintenance and the upkeep and looking after the common areas. Now, I think the biggest challenge, and something that we've seen that has occurred across many apartment blocks, is people who are administering those funds, whether they're an on-site body corporate or whether they are managed by a professional body corporate fund. As you said, Kevin, until you get that quantity survey done and you know what those costs are going to be, that's your baseline, but it's the projection forward, because quite often your sinking fund and your admin fund will be on. The fee structure that's been built in isn't the same.
Yeah, because when you're establishing your sinking fund, you've got to take into account the fact that the building may need painting in 5 to 7 years' time. The lifts might need updating. The pool might need resurfacing. So many things can go on, and a smart body corporate will make allowance for those 5, 6, 7 years out, and be making so that the funding is available. And if it's not available at the time, then all the lot holders have got to chip in to pay it up, or actually go and borrow the funds. So that's really the critical issue. And I was surprised when I read some studies just how many body corporates are actually underfunded in Australia. It's quite staggering.
You're absolutely right. There is a lot of body corporates that are underfunded, and I know that in New South Wales the laws are very different and a lot stricter, but I think that it's time that the government looked at reform in that particular area, because I just think that there's a lot of problems and issues. I know they're doing reforms in all the tenancy laws and the other property laws, but I think it's time that someone had a really good look into that body corporate and the strata management side of things, because they're underfunded, Kevin. And if I go and buy a unit, and let's say you've owned it and then I go and buy it from you, you've paid sort of a projection, and then one or two things can happen. They may well have over projected, which is bad news for you because you've overpaid, good news for me because I don't have to pay as much, or the reverse will happen and it's underpaid, and then I go in and I'm hit with massive special levy.
Indeed. Hey, we're going to come back after this very short break. I want to tell you about a story from News Limited, and this is quite staggering. This has got to be the biggest garage I have ever seen. And wait till you hear how many cars you can get inside this garage. We're going to be back in just a moment.
Your business card is a vital selling tool and a constant visual reminder of who you are, what you do, and more importantly, how you can be contacted. Introducing our new Velvet business cards, featuring a luxurious premium laminate that has a velvet texture and is soft to the touch. Printed on a resilient 450 GSM card, these cards can be printed with a range of spot gloss and foiling options to give your office that prestigious look.
Okay, as I said, the biggest garage I have ever seen. Would you believe 29 cars? And the purchaser is actually selling this property. Have a look at it. We'll throw up a couple of photos for you. But the garage, he tells us, is almost empty now of cars. He's sold most of the cars, and a lot of them look to be very, very expensive too, Michelle. But it beats the previous record, a home in Sydney that had a 22-car garage. But 29 cars? Goodness gracious me. You got one for every day of the month, really.
But That's right. You would. How on earth would you ever use 29 cars? But hey, you know, some people, that's their passion, that's their life. But
Yeah.
I looked at the property. I mean, a beautiful property. What a outstanding location. But then looking inside that garage, and I guess for me, I was thinking, okay, so logistically, if I wanted to use the car that was way down the back, then I'd have to move all the other cars out of the way to get in. So it was just that made me. I had a little bit of a giggle about that. But yeah, 21 cars. Obviously,
That's a woman's view. I mean, that is a woman's view. I think I read in the story there somewhere that someone said, you know, if I purchased this place, I'd lose my husband forever. You know, he'd never get out of the garage, and that's probably pretty true too. But yeah, I don't think you'd ever drive that. Like looking at some of those cars, I think there's a Lamborghini in there somewhere. I mean, they're just collector's items, aren't they? Really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, they are. They are. But yeah, no, that certainly is. You know, as you said, it's a record. The other one was 22. This is 29. But you know, I guess, you know, if you've got the money and you want to do that in life, you know, we work hard and we work long. So if that's what they want to do, then good on them, I say.
I don't reckon that if I was going to had a passion, I don't think it'd be around cars, because it's the one thing that the moment you drive it out of the showroom, it drops in value, you know, even before you get it to the first set of traffic lights. But anyway, there you go. Hey, I want to always end the show, as we always do, on a bit of an unusual story. And this one comes to us from Top 10 Real Estate Deals, which is where we get a lot of our great stories about unusual homes. What about this one? This is built inside a clock. I love this because it's over 3 levels. It's in San Francisco. It's on the market for $6 million. And they've just repurposed the clock tower. But the actual clock face itself, you can actually go into the room and see the clock faces, Michelle.
Yes. Yeah, no, when I looked at this, I just went, I would just love to go and have a look inside that property. It's got such an interesting history. So in 1907, I think, was when it was first built. And then there was a company, a printing company, I think it was. He had it in 1921, and he'd been there for all of those years. And then there was some planning, local towning and planning and development that they wanted to do. And they wanted to actually pull it down, and he fought and fought and fought for it. And they actually rerouted the plans and did the road around it. So, and then in 1922, they redid it up and it became living areas and workspace offices. So, but it's a classic piece of history. It's, you know, reading the story, people who, you know, catching the train to work have always relied on having the clock there to tell them, you know, what time it is. But sitting in that, imagine sitting in that room in the actual tower and just watching, you know, the clock face. It would be amazing to go and see it.
Yeah, you'd have to turn the chimes off though. Yeah, I mean, you just couldn't live in there with all those chimes. Imagine living in behind Big Ben. Yeah, all wearing some headphones or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the important part is a piece of history, and you know, obviously the architecture of the building is just amazing. So yeah, love that story, Kevin. Loved it.
Indeed. And I've loved having you on the show again too, Michelle Delaney, of course, from Better Homes and Gardens. And that's it for the show for this week. Michelle, thank you for being with us, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yeah, I'll see you very, very soon. Thanks for having me.
And watch out, Real Estate Talk is out tomorrow, and Auction Update Bin will be out a little bit later today as well. So watch out for that. And of course, you can see all the shows all the time. We stream them live, and then they're available for you to watch at any time at propertytv.io. I'm Kevin Turner. Thanks for your company. We look forward to seeing you next time.